Hi, this is Will Faber from Art to Ride, and today I'm here in outside of Berlin, Germany. I'm at a place called Landgut Schönweide. Did I get that right that time?
Wonderful.
There you go. I've been working on my German here. And this is Dr Inge Schwenger, who is the owner of the property, who is has given up her medical career to devote it to horses, it seems to me, and their well-being. She's very involved with the sport of polo, and she very much reminds me of some of my old friends who really cared about the polo ponies, like we care about dressage horses, and really wanted to do it right, wanted to have them last as long as possible, and had some idea of working them correctly over their back so that that would happen. And of course, I actually in my lectures all the time talk to people about, I talk about polo, how you look, if a horse is hollow and it's flipping this way while it canters, you can't hit the ball. And getting the horse over the back and allowing that back to cruise along, as I so wonderfully experienced on your horse yesterday, I mean, you know, it made it easy to hit the ball because the platform never changed.
Never.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
So it's really great to see people who understand that, because all the sports, it's not polo, it's not dressage, it's not this or that, you know, all of our sports have degraded to the point where people are basically forcing the horses to do these things, and mostly out of balance. It's what's leading to a lot of people getting hurt, not on the polo field, in the dressage ring, and everywhere else, because the horses are out of balance and being held tight against the hand, which, you know, if you ever try to play a polo pony that way, you know, you get killed, right? Or you get a, you know, something in the face.
It's totally wrong, so to say. To have a really a play which is which brings you to another level.
To another level, exactly.
To a better level.
Yeah.
It's not possible to play really well if you not have a light hand. That's not possible.
Yeah, exactly. Just like everything else, you have to have a light hand, or it's dangerous.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
Okay, well, where we are right now, we're standing on, I think, the third floor of the beautiful hotel here, and of course, this is going to be the site of our clinic next year in Berlin.
That's good.
Inge has been kind enough to maybe offer this place as a possibility for that, and the possibilities here are amazing. As I think some of you saw in my videos today, where we played polo yesterday. I had an amazing time, and you know, she's perfectly happy and would be willing to do a polo clinic, and she has horses that people could ride. And here at her farm, she actually has, is it the junior team? Explain to me the junior things that you have with junior
First
riders.
of all, I would think that you dressage riders are always a bit stiff.
That's right.
Not you personally.
No, I am too. I realized yesterday.
So you never have the experience of how to move with the horse or on the horse, which makes your seat a little bit more flexible, and then maybe come better back to that what you're doing on the dressage quarter. And what I would really love to offer for you is that your dressage clients and students, that they would change maybe for half a day or so to a polo pony seat. First of all, the saddle is much more loose, you know, you have no, what do you call this?
The way dressage saddles used to be.
What helps your knees, it's not anymore there, so you had your own grip, you need your own grip, and on the other hand, you're really flexible to move on the horse. And I think this might be a good basic lesson for then to go forward with the polo ones. So, and regarding...
I mean, I absolutely agree with you, and I think it would be absolutely fantastic. I mean, I was fortunate enough to grow up doing everything on horseback, and over my life I've trained race horses and polo horses. You know, I was never a great polo player, but I used to train the horses for the players, you know, and get them working. I was fortunate enough to meet a wonderful 9-goal player named Charlie Moss when I was in my 20s, you know, and he just taught me so much. He was actually the first person I ever saw do flying changes every stride, and that he's actually the one who taught me to do flying changes every stride. So it was a polo player, you know, who taught me one of the highest level movements in all of dressage, because he could just do it on this polo pony. I mean, completely relaxed and over the backs. And you know, when you see people work like that, whether it's polo, now that what I'm trying to do is open all of these people's eyes around the world to what that looks like. What does it look like when a horse is over its back versus when it is not? You know,
and you see it in every discipline. You know,
absolutely.
You see it in every discipline. It's in dressage as well, where you think that all horses should go over the back. For sure, we need that our horses, when we are playing, have a more upright position. They cannot move in the play with the head down.
Exactly.
But as well as when you're starting with on a jumping track, they can't move like this, and they would destroy all the jumps. But But anyhow, they have to be trained like that, and that's what we need to see, that the horses have a relaxed manner to work with us.
Exactly. And that's what we want to start from the very beginning. And who wants to be, I mean, those of us who've been riding long enough, like myself, I mean, I spent my life retraining people's crazy horses that, you know, had killed people in some cases, you know. And it's really not a lot of fun at all. It takes a couple of years to get them to the point that where they are fun. But getting back to our point here, I think that all these experiences you can have, like playing polo, make you more flexible. As I said, I did all of these different things growing up, and every one of them made me a better rider, from 3-day event riding, cross country, and all the fox hunting that I did. To me, it was always that you did these things, you know, the work that we do for the flat work is where we make the athlete to go do the other thing, you know. And now sometimes that can become a thing in itself in the highest levels of dressage, but as we know, most of the horses in the highest levels of dressage today couldn't go around a 2-foot jumping class, or, you know, or much less play the stick and ball of a polo pony, you know. But in the old days, and my heroes were those kind of trainers who actually thought like that. Like
most of them would stumble if you go where we went
exactly,
today.
They'd be on their
this
heads.
Wonderful wood trail through the forest, and yes, and they wouldn't know how to move in this on this race. Yes,
which I saw many times. I mean, I literally quit fox hunting because I saw that happen to too many people. Because people started coming out who really didn't know how to ride and tried to go fox hunting. And as I said, I waited for one too many ambulances in my life, and I finally said, I've had enough of this. You know, it was too sad to watch. But anyway, getting to the point here, where we are, we're going to take a little tour of the property here. And what we're overlooking here, why don't you explain it to us what we're actually overlooking here, which is, I guess some of you would call a trail paddock. Is that the correct word? Right. A trail paddock. But we're going to pan around here for just a minute and take a look at what we see out here. And this property is all broken up into these pieces, almost like a maze. And what a great way to rehab horses. So many of the older horses that we come to, you know, get into such bad shape because people keep keeping them. They become couch potato animals, where they get kept in boxes for too long. You know, they never get the right kind of work every day. I mean, they come out, you know, they just start sinking in the middle, just like a person who sits on the couch forever. They start sinking in the middle, right? So explain to us what happens out here in this trail paddock, correct?
Yes, exactly. Right. It's a paddock trail.
Paddock trail.
And maybe you cannot really see it from above, but the idea is to connect all these different paddocks. So that the horses have like a trail where they can change to different places where they want to stay. First we have, for example, the feeding places where we have this hay. What is this called in English? This Raufe. What we have? This thing where we do the bales inside. So.
Well, of course,
container.
The bales. What you saw, it's a container.
It's a hay
that
container.
goes around. So they take a round bale like we're all used to, and the round bale they have devised this. If you pan out there a little bit and look at one of them, what it is like mesh wire, and it's the thing that a person can pick up. And over the top of it has a netting where the horses need to reach into the middle of it to draw the hay out. So you put that around a hay bale and you place them around. And as you can see, they've placed them around in many different places to give the horses many feeding areas.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Will,
you
for explaining that. Now we invented in a way this way of containers because they're very light on one hand and on the other, so that we can really replace them every now and then. We know we can change the place where they're standing. They are very light. They're only 18 kilos, so it's like 36 pounds weight, and it's a very very economical way of feeding because you are losing only a bit of the hay. Normally the horses are doing with the hay a lot of things that they put it around, and this is not possible with this sort of containers. But the most important thing is that we have these places where they can have their dinner or lunch, and which is quite interesting. They have like a coffee chat all the time, these horses. When they're free for choosing their places where to eat, they maybe, as you see there, they are they are assembling at one of these containers, sometimes with 10 horses, very peaceful, and the others are free, and so it's like they have a meeting for dinner. This is what we experience. So it's not 3 horses, 3 horses, 3 horses. It's very often that all the horses meet at one feeding place. And what's necessary for them, because we have on one in one area we have the feeding places, and on the very other area we have the water. And on the paddock where the water is, we don't have any feeding. So the horse has to move every now and then, changing from the feeding place to the water place. And in between we have something like a little hill, which you can see over there. And as well we have a little, so to say, way with stones and with wood over there. You can see it. So the horse have a little like labyrinth, or they have to change, and to change their moving. It's not always a flat ground they are moving on, and this is quite important to reorganize their senses for different soils, which is necessary for a horse to stay healthy in terms of the body movement, that the ground is not that flat. And so we have this as well. In the middle we have the area where they really can run. It's really possible for the horse not to only gallop for 3 or 4 jumps and then to stop. Maybe if you see this paddock here, this is the first paddock that we put the horses in when they arrive, so that the whole herd can get in contact to the new horse. And when we think that everything's fine, that the horses get to know each other, we put the new horse out of this first paddock, and then we put it in the group. So that, because a new horse is always a stress for the whole herd, and as well for sure for the new horse, so that the new horse has to have time to make friends, to make connections, to know each other, to smell each other, and maybe to touch each other. And then we have this herd which is having a lot of different horses and a lot of, like, now getting this. There's a gelding. He now is, I don't know how, since 2 days now, he tries to get his studs.
He's getting a herd together.
Yes, he got a little herd.
He got a little harem going on.
Yes, he got a little harem there, and he's like a macho now. But it's totally okay as long as the horses don't really hurt each other, which I never experienced in my time of keeping horses in a herd, even in a bigger one. We always have more nice situations than even a dangerous or a bad situation.
But do let me point out, we talked about this yesterday, and they do not turn horses out with shoes on together. That's
not on the back legs.
Yeah, not on the back legs, because we all know how dangerous
yes, sure.
that would be. I always want to emphasize to that people. I myself have seen many horses get broken legs and cracked hips and from kicking each other. So that's the one thing they do. But if you look out there and you see, now this is the perfect place to do this. Now we're in kind of lake country, I suppose you'd call it. We're not far from some big lakes and this sort of thing. And the soil that we see out here is a really beautiful kind of sandy loam. That is the kind of water, the kind of ground that would absorb a lot of water very easily, doesn't turn into mud very easily, and so a perfect kind of environment for this kind of thing. And I do think you have to be careful. As I said, we have talked about this. I'd love to see someone have something like this, as an alternative, as a retirement farm, rather than just putting horses out in the pasture if we don't have, super green pasture. Now do these horses also get on the green pasture sometimes?
Yes, they are now during the day. They all are on the green pasture at this time of the year. During the winter time they're always here, but now they are going in the morning very early, like 8 o'clock a.m. They are going and to their pastures, and then they're coming back, staying night over on their paddock. And what I wanted to maybe add is that it's now proved by several universities in Germany that if the horses are staying on such a paddock trail in an active way, they get much more muscles even when they are trained every day by a professional trainer. This
Absolutely.
is very astonishing, even for me, that all the saddle makers say that if these horses are 1, 2, 3 months here on such a paddock, the long back muscles are really growing, and they are getting this sort of strength they know and power they need for then be ridden in a sports team. And so I would say that to have a way of keeping the horses like that, it's ideal for sport horses.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. In fact, even what we see here now, Katerina is behind the camera over here. Now that's your horse that we're seeing down there, isn't it? Down there in the corner. And I think some of you probably saw pictures of him from the last clinic. She paid $1 for this horse, and evidently he was quite a mess, when she got him. And look at him now. And this was part of his rehab, process, was coming here and living like this. And I once again, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I grew up on a huge farm with lots and lots of horses all the time, and they all lived on 300-acre farms. They moved all of the time, and they looked beautiful. We didn't, they were never like couch potato blobs, or whatever the case may be, the way we see so many horses today. And they looked in good flesh and good muscle. I mean, we didn't, sometimes we had a lot of horses and we didn't ride them very often, some of the ones that weren't the ones that we had up. But they didn't look terrible. We would bring them from pasture and they looked fantastic. I mean, they were like, skin and bones or, sway backed or whatever the case may be. They had good flesh on them because they were always moving out there in that big herd. So anyway, I think this is a wonderful idea. I would love to see people doing more of this kind of thing. I think it's a great adjunct to what we do at R2 Ride to work towards getting horses healthy enough to work over their backs and be ridden again. And we see with Katerina's horse, for instance, that happened as this being part of that rehab process. So as I learned to say in Australia, good on you for all of that, because it's all very interesting, And once again, I'd like to see places where when our horses, we hope most of us that are to ride plan on riding our horses well into their 20s, but there is some point where some of them have to be retired. And I think I'd love to see more people set up this kind of a system in places, once again, that have the ground that's suitable for it. Many places in California, it wouldn't be unless you also did footing in the whole thing or something like that, because we have so much. But maybe that's a possibility.
It must be possible, even with that grounds. For sure, you have to know some tricks to do it. But I think that at least every horse should have a chance when it's possible to live more active than most of them do now.
Absolutely. So now what we're going to do is go have a look at the barn. There's been some other research that's been done here. They've come up with a wonderful bedding product. And so I think we'll go take a look at the barn now, if that's okay with you. And I'd love to hear about what you're doing. We're always looking for innovation, and they've made some here. So we'll see you over there in just a minute. All right, now we've come into Inge's Polo barn. And as you see here, this is what we call an exercise. What do you call it?
Wooden horse.
A wooden horse. Obviously, it's a wooden horse.
And it's woody. It's woody. Hey, Woody, how you doing?
And this would be where kids would stand. She has a well-known polo camp here for young students, and I want you to tell us a little more about that before we move down the market.
Yeah, we start in 2003 with teaching young players or even kids they would like to have to go forward in polo. For sure, in our camps they have to know how to ride in the 3 main paces. Or gears, and then we collect them. We had about always like 30, 34, and we started in a way at that time with the idea of really having standards for the polo education, for polo riders. That means not only how to hit. Hey, we start here on that woody horse with the exercises of how to hit the ball. And for sure we start at the same time how to ride a polo horse, which is one-handed riding, because you need your right hand to have the stick in your hand. And at the same time we are doing some like horsemanship, so that the kids really need to understand their horses, and they need to understand their necessities and what the horse has to have a lucky and a life, and not only a lucky life but a lucky way to play polo. And this was one of our really ideas to bring this into the minds of the young people, so even if they stop playing, that they have an idea of teamworking, because polo is a teamwork, and we always say the weakest of the team measures the team. So if you're not taking care of your weak guy in a team, you would lose, even against stronger ones. So, and this is what we want to tell.
That's a great philosophy. Exactly. You know,
what you want to tell the young ones.
As we should be thinking, riding should be something that makes people better people. You know, not worse people.
So,
you know?
as music does.
Exactly, as all of these kinds of
Yes,
things
yeah,
do. You know? So it's wonderful that you have this program here. I know she gave me a great lesson yesterday. I had such a great time and corrected my swing quite a bit and got me moving. In fact, it was interesting because we talked about, she had watched my video about the outside leg position. And she was saying, you know, how she realized, yes, that's exactly right, because in polo you have to do this to turn the horse and stay safe. So it's all the same, folks. That's what, you know, when you see me ride, sometimes I might be forward, sometimes I might be sitting up, you know, but I'm basically, everything else is working in the same way. My hands are working in the same way, my legs are working in the same way, and how I bend the horse. The only thing that's changing is maybe the position of my upper body, but all the rest of it works the same, whether you're playing polo or whatever you're doing. You know?
Yeah, it's sure, because we don't do a piaffe on the field, that's sure. But we need really quick turns. So what you do with a pirouette, we do on the field, just in the play. And if we do, for us, riding is something that goes in your inner mind. It's nothing we are thinking about. We can't think about how to ride. We have to think about how to get this goal.
How to get this ball down the field.
Down the field. And this is how is the tactic, how is the play with my other team partners. And the riding is just, what I always call is it's like a centauric riding, you know. It's just that you are really one person with a horse. Or
you're the mind, they're the body, right?
Yes, that's
they're responding. Exactly. If we've reached a level of communication where we're cooperating with one another, you know.
And this is with good riders, with good dressage riders, I think the same. It's all in your body and mind, and it goes like you drive a car. But it's not a car you're driving, it's a horse you're riding, and it's a living system, and it's a living friend. And in polo we say we are still the fastest team play, you know, the team sport, you know.
Sure.
It's not possible with motorcycles, because they should have been more, or go faster than a horse maybe, but we all would be dead. Because the motorcycle won't care if we got in a carambolage or something. A horse does. A horse is thinking with us, and this we have always to think about.
And play along with us. Once again, it was so lovely doing a little stick and ball on our horse yesterday, because just knew the game, and it was so nicely over its back that it let someone like me, who hasn't hit a polo ball in 15 years, I mean, feel like I can just let go of the reins, the horse just followed the ball, put me right. If I just left it alone, it went right to where it was supposed to be, and I could swing along and hit the ball and look like I had some semblance of a knowledge of what I was doing, even though I don't. You know, so it was really a wonderful experience. So I think it's wonderful to have the club here. So let's take a look on down the barn. They've made some innovations here in some of the bedding and things like this, and how they built the barn, which I like a great deal. Okay, here we are in one of the stalls. I think we kind of look like American Gothic, only I'm holding because you got the piece.
And I'm like a real farmer.
Exactly,
you know,
you are a real farmer.
Yes.
So this is a product that Inge has been very involved with producing, had the idea for. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Come on up here and see what this is. This is the bedding that they use, and it has some wonderful properties, and I'm going to let you talk about that.
Well, thank you very much, Will, to give me that opportunity to maybe tell some guys in your country, in the United States, what we are trying to give our horses, what sort of environment we wanted to invent with this bedding. I think everybody who is keeping horses in boxes, which is, we have to say, it's not natural. Just to say, it's like we force the horse to live in its toilet, in a way, to make it very clear. A horse in the outside would never do this. It would not stand where it leaves his manure, and but it has to when we put it into a box. And what is immediately connected with this decision of us to put a horse in that box is that we put it into an atmosphere with a lot of fouling gases, because these fouling gases are produced by bacteria, by microorganisms inside of the bedding, normal bedding. And you can maybe put this Hippodung sack down. Or
I'm gonna set this down now. I'm gonna set this right over here, and we'll set that there for a moment, and I'll come back.
So the task was, and as you maybe now know, that Polo was for long years, for 20 years, an active polo player, and for sure you need, when you are in a sport like this, that even and eventing is the same, that you always need horses with a very healthy lung, because they really have to give everything they have to give to go speedy and to have their force for this what we're doing with them. And if they inhale all the time this fouling gases, the lung is not only the lung, but the lung first. We see mostly the lung being sick after a couple of years. A lot of horses in Germany, we have now 14% with a severe chronic lung disease. And but it's not only the lung, it's gases which are not good for the nerves and as well for the fertility. So we have more and more mares which are not able to get any more foals, and this is possibly connected with these gases. As well, we talk about climate change, and these gases coming out of our stables, not only of our horse stables, they are about 300 to 1,000 times more dangerous than CO2 for the atmosphere.
So is it like methane coming out
yes,
of this?
Yes, methane is that what is produced by the cows, for example. A horse doesn't produce that much methane. It is a bit, but it's more SH2, Schwefelwasserstoff. I'm German, I don't know this name correctly.
And I'm not much of a scientist.
It's ammonium. It's ammonium for sure. We always smell this ammonium.
So in other words, what she's saying is that, just the normal stall, even though it may look clean, can still have a lot of these gases coming off the floor and up through the shavings. And I know I am always, looking for clean shavings. In fact, if I could do it at home, I could afford it, but it's very expensive where we are. I would use hay bedding for horses like we used to use, years ago, rather than these chips and shavings and all this kind of. But it's interesting you say it, because many horses, I know numerous horses right now that we're having to water their hay all the time because they're starting to get this funny cough. They just, where they're coughing, it's like they're over, and perhaps all these gases are beginning to be the cause of what all these coughing horses is all about.
That's right. It reacts like it's not an acid, it's it's an alkalic, something what's is produced by these gases in the lung of the horse. As soon as it gets connected with water, it's this alkalic liquid, and this is like disturbing the very, very little issues or tissues, that's right, that's the right word, the tissue, in the body of the horse. And what you said is what comes on top is that our hay quality is getting worse and worse. And that means that the dust inside of the hay, for example, is as well very bad for the horse's lung. So we have two things we must avoid if it's possible. And what you say with the bedding, every really good stable tries to bring these gases out, and so they have to they have to bring all the bedding out of the horse's stable every single day. And this is what it costs a hell of a money. It costs hell of a work for the people they are employed at the stables, and for sure machinery and place where you have to store the bedding and so on. And this is the next thing that we wanted to create: a healthy bedding, a healthy surrounding, and an economical economical efficient bedding. And this what I just show you, and I showed you some days before. It's getting after a while quite it's quite solid, so to say. It's not hard, but it's like a normal healthy ground we have in the outside. And you see it's a bit brown, but what I always say is there is no healthy ground on earth or living ground which is white or light. It's not possible. All the healthy grounds and natural grounds, they are getting darker, and the really, really healthy earth is nearly black. So what we have here is that we have a ground which is built by the horse itself, and this one is here since about 6 years. So 6 or 7 years ago, we had the last time that we really put the bedding on our dung pile. After that, we decided that it's not necessary. So since then, we really left this bedding inside. And the main thing is that this bedding is composting instead of fouling. So if you have this ground where a lot of pee went into in all these years, and
there's absolutely no smell to this.
It's absolutely no smell.
Absolutely odorless, dust-free.
Yeah. Which we measure the air in this stable every now and then, maybe every second month or so. We go with this special machine, which is able to test the ammonium concentration in the air, and we found nothing. It's zero. And only in some in the fresh pea places, so to say, there was a bit of ammonium very, very deep inside of this bedding. And so you see that it's if you go through it, it's quite solid, so the horse will never, even if it shoot, will never get through it and lay on the concrete.
Right.
So, and this is as well a problem, that we have this loose shavings or straw, and the horses turn around twice, and then they are laying with their bones and joints on the concrete. And always getting
hawk sores and all this kind of stuff.
And so what the people do, they spend as well a lot of money for doing some rubber beds underneath or whatever. And this is not anymore necessary if you have this bedding, because if you want to go onto the ground, it's really hard work, even for me with this instrument.
And yet at the same time, it actually feels kind of bouncy when you're standing on it. It doesn't feel like you're standing in here on hard ground.
And so we see that
it almost looks like a fiber cushion kind of.
It's like that, and it's a living system. So we have a composting reaction which makes the upper. And so because we need to do a bit of the bedding every now and then in the stables. And when you go to the bottom, you find that it's getting darker and darker. And this shows that there is a lot of reaction inside. And this reaction makes it as well that the bedding always is a bit warm. So even we have sometimes, here in this area, we have sometimes -10, -20 degrees. And here the horses always stand on a lightly warmer ground.
and just let's back up a little bit. So what happens and how we get to this stage is the secret of the bedding here, which explain to us a little bit how this stuff is made and what's in it. Because I believe the composting factors and chemicals necessary, or enzymes, whatever it is, to make all this happen are contained in the bedding. Right? I know we tried for a while a sort of similar system using rice hulls where we sprayed something onto the bedding. But we found that in the California climate, we found the rice hulls got too dusty, and then it started getting smelly, and it actually just didn't work. So it was a great idea, we thought, but this seems like taking that to the next factor and maybe making it work. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, sure. I forgot this. Sorry. Yeah. For first, we use simple powder. I don't know what's the real word in English, but it's wood. It's domestic wood from needle trees, and it's brought into a little, like it's powder, and it's we are producing pellets out of it. Yeah. And while this during this production from this powder into pellets, we put into a catalyst, which is not an enzyme and it's not bacteria. We only use the bacteria coming out of a single horse you have standing on the bedding. Yeah. Nothing strange or nothing what's foreign in the surrounding of the horse. We only use the bacteria of the horse, and the catalyst, which is made by a company called Polo, and they made, from my idea, a special catalyst, which we put into the pellets. Maybe we open the sack.
Yes, let's have a look.
And let's have a look. Oops. It's not that, it's only 14 kilos, so every woman can easily handle this. And so these are the wooden pellets. Some they're only
odorless.
Yes, it's only like needlewood. It's
Now when you say needlewood, I think you mean like spruce trees and pine trees.
Yes, pines. What is
those
it?
kind of things.
We call it needlewood in Germany.
We call them evergreens.
Because of the needles.
Yeah, because of the needles. That's how I knew what you were talking about. That's right. Just so everybody knows.
Yes, okay.
Our American viewers go, needle trees.
What is it? Sorry.
We have one of those down at the park.
It's a miracle. We have some special needle trees in Germany. No.
Any old needle trees will do. Okay.
So it's the trees with these needles on. It's evergreen trees for sure. Thank you for the correcting me. And the inside of that is this catalyst. It's a very low percentage. We put it into, and then we put hot water on, and it's growing like on the fifth of its former of its.
I see.
It's growing and it's very fluffy then. Yeah. And then we put it in the stable. Yeah.
Now, do you put it in the stable and then put the water on it, or you put the water on it in a bucket?
I put it in the bucket or in a what is it? A cartridge, little one. What is it called? Schubkarre.
Like a wheelbarrow or something.
A wheelbarrow.
So you wet it and then come in and dump it in.
A wheelbarrow. We put it in a wheelbarrow, about 2 or 3 sacks of that.
How long does it take to soak it?
Oh, it's if you put hot water in it, it's maybe 2 minutes, not longer. 2 minutes, and we go and stir it with our arms and hands, and then we put it in the box.
And then the horse can go right on it?
Yes, right on it. Right on it.
Wow.
No.
So how many bags of this would it take to actually to bed a stall the first time?
10 bags for the first time, and then it depends on the climate, how many bags we have to add. Because that all the pea is here inside and we don't put the pea out. So when it's winter time and when it's not possible that the water is drying up, then we need more additional bedding than if it's summertime, and like now this one is even a bit too dry, so we need the horses more in the stable.
Yes, wet it down. Wow. Well, I think it's actually a wonderful product. And now, it's available where now?
Just now we sell it all through Europe. So we have about now 5 to 6 European countries where we have it, where we sell it. And yes, if I got a partner in the United States, we can.
I think we may be talking after this.
Yes.
Because I think it's a wonderful idea, and it's something people have tried. And you have some very well-known riders now using it. I believe you told me, I don't want to get this wrong, but a famous dressage rider who I know well of.
With the system, what we call the system regenerative system inside of our stables and barns. And this is two sides. We have one is the bedding and the other one is a machine where we cultivate the greenland, the grass and the pastures and even the hay, the grassland where we produce hay. And this machine is now used by Klaus Beikenhol, which you
Klaus
know.
Beikenhol, one of my heroes, and should be everyone. Yeah.
He is now a good friend because he used this since 2 years now, and I think that he's quite satisfied, and the hay quality is really improving for his horses. It's much less dust in the hay because the hay is much stronger, full of energy, and
Well, not to get on another subject, so this is, tell us a little bit about, this is a cultivating machine or a planting machine?
We can go later and look at it. It's here.
I think we're going to have to take one more little trip out to the forest to have a look at this. All right, well, thank you so much for all this information. I mean, I hope we all take it in, and I'm going to be talking to you. I think this is a wonderful product. I think we should be bringing this to the United States. And once again, we watch people every day. Like in California, we can't even get rid of the shavings. I mean, it costs a fortune to get rid of the shavings. And once again, we tried this other system that was sort of an idea of this, but it just didn't work, you know. And it looks like you have it working, and
yes, but it was 3 years. I just tested it and tested it and tested it and tested it, and after 3 years work, and you were more concentrated on your writing for sure, and I was that time. I really wanted to get this. And maybe we have a little look at the dung pile, because I think this is quite interesting, even if it's only horse shit, but it's really interesting, because for sure we get the manure out of the boxes, the bedding stays and the manure we get out, and we can maybe have a look at this wonderful dung pile.
I love it. And once again, I just want to say that Dr. Inge Schwenger, we're very glad that you left the medical profession. She was an early pioneer in,
minimally invasive surgery.
Minimally invasive surgery. There you go. And you know, so a brilliant mind, I think, who's now working on all this other great stuff for the welfare of horses, and I think that's a great thing.
Thank you.
So let's go have a look at the dung pile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come on.
Now, Gustav has joined us for this shot. He's been my buddy this whole trip. Spent a lot of time on my lap in the cars going to where we had the clinic this week, so we had a great time with him, and joined us at dinner every night as well. Anyway, but I wanted to point out, you know, how Inge has set up this barn in here, which I love the openness of it. You notice there aren't any bars between the horses; they're actually able to touch one another. You know, which a lot of polo people are used to that idea. A lot of people in the dressage world are not, because they're all assuming their horses will kill one another if they actually touch each other. And I'm sure there must be some care one has to take. But as you can see here, these horses are all getting along beautifully. I designed a very similar barn that I had in Kentucky. The only difference being the fronts were all like this, and they could touch between the walls, but the middle walls were higher. But they were very, very happy horses. They had their heads out just like yours do all along the entire front of the thing. They could actually touch noses, you know, around the post that held them up, if you will. And I never had any problems, this sort of thing. And so anyway, we love the openness. The idea that she's trying to create here, I believe, is that you're trying to give the horses the feeling that they're always in a herd, you know, and they're with other horses. And
yes, as we just discussed, a box is not a natural way of surrounding for a horse. And we have the next thing is that what we have to consider is that a horse is the animal with one of the most high intelligent social intelligence. Sorry, I didn't find the English word. It's the social intelligence of the horse is even higher than ours. When we decide to go to a place in the mountains and live there for maybe 1 year, if we have really this decision, we can do this without getting crazy. But a horse has to live with other horses. And when I saw these boxes with these high grids or walls between the horses, I think that we have to consider that horses must have a psychosomatic diseases. And we see a lot of horses having this. And when we have new people coming with their horses here and they see that it's really free between them, and they are always anxious a bit about that. Because they think that these horses will eat each other. And then I say, oh no, they are not predators. And you don't have to keep them like you would keep a tiger. But most of the people do. If you see these stables, you think that there are tigers inside. But no, there are not tigers inside. There are horses, they're eating hay and grass. And they would like to touch each other, like we do. You know, I think we would get crazy if we are normal people. And this is a sort of even of torture to put humans into prisons where they don't have contact with others. And
torture.
So, yes, it's a torture. And we, in a way, are torturing our animals when we keep them all the time in these boxes where they don't have the possibility of getting into contact to the other one. Sometimes it's trouble, yes, but it's normal.
Well, you have to obviously be careful, and especially if they grow up that way. Like, we're always amazed, you know, we go down to Mexico very often, and you go there, and, you know, here's 10 stallions just lined up next to each other, tied to a wall. They're all standing there perfectly fine, and, you know, like, it's no big deal, because that's how they grew up. And, you know, none of them are half eaten to death, or whatever the case may be. They all seem just fine, and they're very social, and they actually look quite happy, you know, if you will. You know, especially, of course, with horses that are kept in dark stalls, and especially if you ride badly. So think about these poor creatures. No wonder they start weaving and grinding their teeth and all these things, because they're kept in a dark stall. They're brought out, beaten, whipped, and heads pulled into awful positions and thrown back in the box again. And in between, the person goes, "Oh, good boy, I love this horse so much." Put him back in the dark stall again. You know, I mean, it makes them crazy, and I think that's what gets to horses' brains. You know, so anyway, it's a beautiful setup here. So once again, we're going to mosey outside and take a look at the dung heap, I believe it is at this point. All right, we'll see you shortly. Okay. Okay, here we are on the dung heap. But they always said we'll end up. Tell us a little about this and why this is special and what we're looking at here.
Yeah, maybe you tell a bit about your feeling here. That's normally what all the planners put aside because nobody wants to talk about. But at least every single stable needs one, because we have to get along with the manure of our horses. And this is a very natural thing that we have to see how to manage it. And mostly when we are here in the middle of a village, and normally the people are afraid if you have a stable with now more than 60 horses, that they will have a lot of flies on their breakfast rolls, and a lot of stinky whatever during they are sitting on their terrace. And what is your feeling here?
Well, it's interesting because there's a little bit of a smell, but hardly any. I mean, there isn't. It's like obviously this is a compost. You've composted this. And as I said, literally standing here, you know, it's not full of flies. You don't really smell much. There's maybe a little bit of smell of horse manure, but not like rotting, molding, you know, whatever that just drives you out of here. There's no ammonia smell whatsoever. You know?
Not ammonia smell.
So now, is that the result of the bedding that's in the stalls? Obviously, manure is taken out fresh and whatever, and just set here now. Is this composting factor part of what is in these pellets that does it make it turn into this?
Yes, sure, because the manure gets in contact to the catalyst which is inside of the pellets, and this catalyst it's making the following. It's having the following system, that when we have mainly two different sorts of microbes inside of the manure of the horse. It's the composting microbiology and the fouling microbiology. These are two different ways of in a way to get on with biological material, and and we want to change this all to a composting system. This is what we do with a catalyst. So we put out, or let them get away the fouling bacteria, and it's only the composting ones are staying. And this is why we not really smelling ammonium, because they don't produce it. They only produce CO2 and they produce minerals. And a lot of other microbiology, a lot of fungi, which are, some of them are having antibiotic profiles, so that we have that they delete, so to say, the pathogens which are maybe in the dung. And when you see, you won't find a lot of flies. Normally we have a lot of flies on the dung piles, but here they are only the little ones, and they are helping with composting this material.
And this material could then be used for gardening, or it could be used for putting on your fields. Or it's safe for any kind of ready-to-go as a safe organic gardening material.
Yes, first of all, it's getting very hot inside, and then you see that it's not much. We have in the stables and on our paddock trail altogether about 34 horses. All the others on the pastures. There the dung, we don't put the dung away from the pasture, but from the paddocks and from the boxes, yes. And this is when you see how much it is for just about 30 horses, and we keep this for about 4 months now, and this is not more. So it's only a very very little material that we bring on the dung pile. It's not much work.
So in other words, none of this is having to be dumped in landfills like we do in California. Everything, we literally fill dumpsters that big trucks come and pick up and take to a landfill, because we have nowhere. There's nothing. The stuff that comes out of our bedding is just, it's shavings. It's full of whatever. It's not what anybody. It's not. Of course, it's not composted. So basically, you are able to get rid of all of this that you produce on your own farm here. So in terms of fertilizer
on our grassland, even on the Polo pitch. So we don't have to use any chemistry.
Nice.
It's enough fertilizer, and it's the real fertilizer, because it contains everything. We have a lot of problems with horses. They don't have enough and all the minerals they need. And if you take fertilizers, they have only maybe 3 components of about 20 they are necessary. It's the only thing that gets into the grass. So if the horses later eat the grass or the hay, then they don't get enough minerals. And so you have to feed them artificial ones, which are not that good for the biological organization of the horse. And here we get everything that comes from the horse back to the, so it's a circulation system. And yes, and we found out that all the grass and all our plants are really growing fantastic with that. And I think that even in the dry areas of your country, when we use a composting system, maybe you will get a better solution for your grounds and fields if you use it.
Well, thousands of people go down to Home Depot and buy bags and bags of fertilizer every week. Then this stuff could be going that way. And when I was a kid and I worked in Unionville, Pennsylvania, it was where all the mushroom farms are. And they actually gave all the farmers hay, and then they came and picked it all back up when it was dirty, and they used it for growing mushrooms. So it was a wonderful, system in that way. But of course you couldn't. That's why it had to be hay, because it didn't work if you did it on shavings, because it killed the mushrooms or something like that. So anyway, well, thank you so much for this tour. I mean, it really has been so entertaining and interesting and enlightening is the word I'm looking for throughout this. You did a wonderful. I mean, this is literally kind of what I'm trying to create on a riding level with Art to Ride. We're trying to get this information out there to people of how we can better take care of these horses And at the same time, if we can take care of our environment, at the same time, we'll have a great thing, because that's going to, you know, if we don't start doing that, where is all this stuff going to go from these stables? You know, where is all this tons of manure going to go? I mean, the landfills are going to be full of it, which they are now, and it's very expensive to get rid of, you know. If we can turn it into something that someone can use, I mean, for instance, where I am, I'm surrounded by people, by growers. I mean, that's the whole area where we are is every kind of, you know, growing thing that you can imagine, you know, so you would think there would be somewhere, you know, even if you didn't have the land to use it yourself, that, you know, you could find people, you know, who would be willing to take this stuff if it were something somebody could use, as opposed to a bunch of shavings, you know. So
lots of our clients, they sell, you know. It's not anymore that they have to give money for to somebody who is bringing this away, but they sell this to gardeners, to biological farms, and it's you know, it's a gold. It's lately it's that what we urgently need in a lot of regions where all the grounds and soils are not anymore able to produce healthy food, and this is the basic of healthy food, in my opinion.
It's healthy fertilizer rather than chemicals. Well, once again, thank you so much for the tour this evening. If we have time tomorrow morning, it's getting a little late here, we're going to go out and look at this machinery, haymaking, it's the planting thing. We'll try to take a look at that tomorrow. I have to leave on a plane fairly early, but if we get to that, hopefully we will. If not, we'll get it to when we come back, because we'll be back here in Berlin, you know, at Landgut Schönweide. I've gotten it. And next year for sure, and we're going to have a great time. This place is so wonderful. People can play polo. They can ride out through these beautiful trails in the woods as we did today, you know, and not to mention how beautiful the place is, the fabulous restaurant. I mean, it's an amazing place. And if anybody, I would really recommend you, if you're in this area of Germany for anything, by all means, just come and be a guest in the hotel.
Close to Berlin, just 10 minutes away.
Yeah, we're 10 minutes away from Berlin, so get out here and by car or by plane helicopter. Anyway, well worth the trip. I can't remember when I've had such a good time. So we'll see you all very, very soon. Thank you once again for your hospitality.
Thank you, Willie, and thank all of you to listen to that, what we said, and
well, that's what we try to get the information out there to the people, right? Power to the people. Knowledge is power, folks. All right. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, here we are, the last phase of the trip here that we're going to take a look at this morning. Some more innovation that they've done here, and I'm going to let Dr. Schwenger tell us about this.
Thank you, Will. I hope I can really explain this in English this morning.
We're all a little blary-eyed here this morning.
It was a nice barbecue yesterday evening we had, and a long one.
Absolutely. And once again, if you're anywhere near this area of Germany, I highly recommend that you come and stay at this beautiful hotel and see what's going on here. And if you have horses, there's stabling. I'm sure people can trailer in.
Everybody's really welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
It's a wonderful place.
So now let's talk about this machine.
Yes, let's talk about this machine.
The point is, everybody who has pasture, I know that in your region this is not a lot of pasture because it's quite dry and hard and so on. But in Europe, and I think in the most areas, even in the United States, we have pastures where we put our horses on. And mostly we have problems with the dung on the fields, and we have problems with the vegetation and with the quality of the soil. So what I was thinking about 8 years ago, that we have this big pasture here, but as well here in the middle of Europe, we have mostly too many horses, and the countryside is too less or too small really to have an optimal range between horses and the size of the land. So the point is that a lot of manure comes onto the soil, and here a lot of horse keepers, they put the manure away from the pasture. The first thing is that they want to avoid parasites, worms. And I think that if they leave the dung there, and this is right in the most times, that they have lots and lots and lots and lots of parasites, of worms, and the horses are always infecting themselves again when they are on this pasture grazing. So what I was thinking is that we need a help, because when we have a land or a pasture which is maybe about 1 hectare or more, which is 2.5 acres, I think. Yeah. 1 hectare. So if it's 2.5 acres or 5 acres or even more, then you have no chance to put the manure away. So you have the problem that the quality of the pasture gets less and less, and even now and then you have to break everything and to put the new semen on it so that it grows again. How to avoid this and how to go more with the nature, because we have manure, and manure, what we discussed yesterday, is so to say the best fertilizer you can ever have, because it's the most natural fertilizer for pasture where horses are grazing. What we did then is that I thought that the catalyst we used then at that time since about 2 years inside of the stables, and we saw that we have no fouling qualities there, but only composting, that this would solve the problem on the pasture as well. And we know that if you mulch something, then you have the best result that for the working of the microbiology on the fields. We now have tests where we do this with the rest of a crop, and this is better than to take the straw away, is to mulch it and to leave it for the microbiology, and then it's fertilizing the soil. So we do the same with this machine. This is if you come closer, it has two different devices, and this is why we call it combi mulcher. It's a combination between a catalyst, which is in this tank, and which is gone out through this spraying system, which is in front and behind the mulcher. We can later look around. I'm so sorry, we did not plan this video, so the mulcher stands in between all our machines, so it's not looking that delicate to say. We have the mulcher, which is from Müting, which is a very qualified German company, and they are sending the mulchers worldwide, and is one of the, I think, 5 top mulcher producing companies. So the technique is on the very top. They have a lot of patents, I think it's right, huh? Patents about that, what they have inside the mulcher, because this is guaranteeing that that what you want to mulch is really hacked into very tiny pieces, and it's not only cut, because if it's cut, I have a grass, and if I just this here is this is very, if you come closer, this is was heißt glatt? This is very
short.
Straight. This is very straight cut, something like this. But if you mulch it, you rub it, like this, and then the surface is getting, it's like this, and the surface is getting more and more bigger, so that the microbiology can dock on this on a very, very can dock on more parts of the grass or of the manure than if you just cut it. So this is a system what exactly does this. So you have the guarantee that you have the best component to be composted on the grounds. So this is the mulcher. We have the spraying systems in front, so that the grass before it gets mulched is mixed with a catalyst, and on the back we have the mulch good coming out of the mulcher, and then again it is sprayed. So we have
so sprayed in, sprayed on the way out.
Sprayed in, sprayed out, and the result we can see at our polo field. we just go over there and do the next.
Yeah.
The next
so let me just recap how this works. So would you spread the manure out on the field and then this would go over the field? No. You dump. How does that work?
No, we just leave the horses, and so that it is melasse, the basic of the catalyst is a melasse, which is the company called Plocher has a special physical what is physique? It's physical, huh? Physical physical machine. Then so this melasse is done into a catalyzing process, and we so it's bio, and we can do it between the horses. We don't have to put the horses away, and we use only the manure where it is.
Where it is on the field.
Where it is.
So
we
you
don't
just
have to do anything else.
So almost like
mulch.
a lawnmower, you go over the whole field with this thing,
field.
and it cuts the grass, and it mixes all the manure that's already there, puts the catalyst on it, spreads it out, so you destroy all the worms and all this stuff in the process, and you have a clean field to put your horses on without the worry of infection from worms. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Let's go take a little look at the field so they can see how beautiful your polo field is. That has been done in this way, and so they can see that. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been incredible. I mean, I can't wait to put all this together for you all to see. So we're going to go take a quick look at the polo field here, and then unfortunately I have to get on a plane back to San Diego. And so we'll take a look, and once again, this is the place to come, folks. We'll see you in a minute. So here we are on the beautiful polo field, which I think some of you probably saw me doing a little stick and ball yesterday, a couple of days ago now it's been, but we had such a good time, and the field felt absolutely wonderful. It was so, for those of us in California, to get out on a big field like it feels very, very springy and soft. The horses feel really good and solid underneath you. And we were actually playing ponies with no shoes on, I noticed as well, and there was no slipping. They never felt like they were sliding around. And I was amazed at that, how sure-footed they were out here without, because most people, oh, no shoes, the horse is going to fall down if it's wet at all, but really fantastic. So what you see out here, this field has been prepared by using this machine. Now they would come along, what you see out here, you can see, if you go over, you can see some clumps of grass, and you can see little piles of manure here and there. And so what that machine would do, kind of like a lawnmower, would come back when they want to, and it would pick all this up, grind it all up into very minute pieces, spread evenly over the whole field, and once again, your field, you'd still be able to let horses eat the grass. As you can see, they have big fields over there where horses are, and I'm sure they do the same thing on all of those fields. So once again, eliminating the difficulty of the spreading of these parasites, which we always worry about when horses are out in pasture and this sort of thing, and completely solve that issue while in a very healthy and biological way, would fertilize everything you're doing, which I'm sure you could use the same situation on crops and things like that, where you were going to grow something. You could take that same manure, for instance, that you saw in the compost pile, you could use that for growing anything you like. It's completely biological, there's no chemicals in it, that sort of thing, because that always worries me. We see some of these things that people are using these days, and these chemicals like Roundup that are now showing up in human bodies, and these kind of things all around the world where animals are eating the grass that has this stuff on it. And what we know now is that all of that is dangerous to the human body. I mean, your body is a machine that has to process everything that goes into it, and the more chemicals you put into it, they all go someplace, and they all have to either go through you or get stored in your fatty tissue or whatever the case may be, as some of these things do, or in your brain, and you never lose them. So this is a wonderful system, not only for horses, but for anybody growing anything else, and with the idea that we can turn our stables into basically a factory to create this beautiful mulch that you can now use to grow biologically done, and natural fruits and vegetables and these kind of things without the danger of the chemicals, and gets rid of all these kind of parasites in the grass and all this kind of thing at the same time. So what a wonderful system you have created here.
Thank you.
I hope it spreads all over. And the name of their company, if you see here, is Hippodung, which is a very good name. So we are hoping that Dr. Schwenger will come during the winter next year, and maybe to one of our Hippo seminars. We have the Hippo organization, which is Horse Industry Professionals protecting our horses.
That's
We're
good.
trying to bring together all these kinds of people from many walks of life, you know, and get the best information that we can get for the care of horses, and also a clearinghouse where people can learn who the good veterinarians are and who the good shoers are and how to tell the difference, you know, if you will, the questions you should ask and these sort of things, which unfortunately, as you know, the horse business grew exponentially in the 90s and now the 2000s, and there simply were not enough good people, not enough good trainers, not enough educated horseshoers, not enough educated vets, you know, to be able to really service the industry at the size that it is right now. So many people, as we've just gone through in San Diego, finding a horseshoer that actually knows how to put a horseshoe, that actually knows how to make a shoe. None of the shoers, I mean, in my past, we always had shoers who knew how to make shoes. I mean, they didn't just take them off the rack and try to nail them onto your hoof. You know, they knew what they were doing.
That's right.
So all of this kind of information that we can share out to the world and help people with what they're trying to do in a small world, for instance, with your mulching system, where, you know, we're not having to cart away, as we do in California, thousands of tons of shavings with manure in it that all just ends up in a landfill someplace because we can't store it.
Yeah,
and it's not necessary.
There's a solution for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as well for the polo field. So maybe some polo guys or organizers of polo fields are watching, and I think that you all know how many semen, how many artificial fertilizers, and how many machines you put with a lot of money on your fields, and you see that your fields are getting harder and harder and are getting worse and worse,
slippery
every single year. And what we done here, we had a normal pasture for horses, and we did just only do a little bit flatten in a way, because there were some holes from foxes and from other animals, and we flattened a little bit and put one time, this was now 10 years ago, 11 years ago, one time salmon on this pitch. And we had a lot of sandy, you saw the sandy in our paddocks, you saw the sandy ground, and this was the same here. So when we played the first years, we had, after about 2 months of playing, this was sandy all over, and it was no grass left. But with this method, we received soil, which is now so wonderful. On one hand, it leaves the water through, so we never have problems when it's really raining. And as well, we don't have to irrigate here, even if we have 6 weeks or 8 weeks of no rain, because the grass now is able to get the water from the grounds. And the next thing is that even if we play in the rain and having a 4-against-4 play, there are no divots coming out. So amazing. We don't, it's not possible to have a movie like, with Richard Gere, you know, where they went on the field and did the divots
where they stopped the divots,
so
which we always did.
This is not necessary anymore, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I would think that would be a huge plus. Well, I know a lot of polo people where I come from, and I'm certainly going to be showing them this video and talking to them about what you're doing. Is there a Hippodung website that people can go to
yes,
to get information?
Yes, we have a website, www.hippodung.com. And there we have, even in English, we have some videos where you can as well, I think in about 2 weeks we have a video in English about the combi mulcher, where you can see the whole system and see how it works. Yes, and the point is that even aerifying, which you do with a lot of machines, here we have the rainworms and they do it for us. So it's
wonderful.
Nice.
Well, once again, I want to thank Dr. Schwenger for spending her time with us and helping us put together this video so you can all see some of this information. And hopefully she will be out in California maybe in January as one of our things, and we'll do a seminar with you. That would be fantastic. And I'm hoping to bring some of her products to the United States. I think it's wonderful
If it's
stuff.
possible, if you let me in,
guys. We'll let her in. So once again, thank you so much for everything you've done for us out here. We really appreciate it. You know, nice. And what you're doing for horses and young polo players around the world and this sort of thing. We really appreciate it. So
thank you.
Once again, we'll see all you at home. You are welcome. I'll see you all back in California very soon, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.